Hey, what's up you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs, and today I'm going to walk you through how to swap out an old fan like this one for a new Hunter Classic Series fan. Now the keys to what I was looking for a new fan was one, this is a small room, so this one's only 42 inches in diameter. It's not a huge fan. And then two, when I measured the ceiling height, this is just a standard 8-foot ceiling. So make sure you understand how tall your ceiling is. This one's 8 foot or 96 inches. And then this fan is a flush mount fan. So it's gonna drop down about 15 inches and I'll still have about 80 inches of head clearance to the bottom of the light glass here. Now the chains will come down a little bit further for the light and the fan, but overall this is about the best you can do in terms of distance coming down from the ceiling if you want a fan with lights installed. So let's jump in, I'll show you how to remove that old fan. So starting off, we're going to want to make sure we're working safely. So two different things. One, eye protection. So you're going to be working overhead, so any dust or debris can definitely fall into your eyes, so it's always good to have those covered up. Two, you want to cut the power. So go out to your circuit breaker box or your fuse panel, find the appropriate circuit breaker or fuse, and make sure you deactivate the circuit that powers this fan. And that will keep you safe throughout the entire project. Tools needed, pretty simple. I do have just a simple compact nut driver with a Phillips head bit. I use this more for disassembling the old fan, and I take a little bit more time threading the screws in for the new fan just so I don't cross thread anything. So I'm really just going to use pretty much a Phillips head screwdriver, but I also have a flathead just in case. And then I do have my voltage tester to make sure to be confident that the circuit is deactivated. And then I have some wire strippers just in case for the wiring portion if I need to straighten out or take the copper or take off any insulation from the wires. But first up, we're going to take this fan off.
This assembly is pretty straightforward. So I'll just take the shade off and the light bulb, then move on to each of the blades. Once the blades are off, then I'll move on and remove the housing. Here's one note. Before you select your fan, make sure, like this one you'll see, the paint only goes up to the housing on my ceiling. So if I selected a fan with a smaller housing, then I would also have to paint my ceiling. So you always want to get a fan, if you can, that has a little larger housing. So now we'll just remove the motor, the light kit, and then this bracket. Removing the 3 bolts, then it usually has a component that kind of carries the weight, and I just snip the wires. Now these threaded studs that go into the electrical box are in really good shape, so I'm actually going to reuse those in the nuts to mount the new mounting bracket.
All right, it's good to know before you take off the wire nuts, just your overall, what the wiring looks like. So I have a bare copper wire, and that's gonna be my ground. Then I have a black wire, which is the hot side, and goes to one of the switches on the wall. And I have a red that goes to a blue wire to the fan. So a red wire coming from the circuit of the house to a blue wire that was connected to the fan. That is another hot wire. So you're gonna, in this scenario, I have 2 switches on my wall. One controls the light and then one controls the fan. Sometimes you might only have one source of power coming in, one hot, and you just have black. In that case, you'll see later on when we wire up the new fan, you would take both those wires to this one hot wire opposed to breaking those out because you only have one light switch. Then the fan and light are just controlled by the pull chains at the fan itself. All right, and then we have our white neutral wire, which is straightforward. All right, I'm gonna line this out as a 4-step process of mounting and installing the fan and light kit. If you only need help with one specific part, jump down in the description. 1, you're gonna find all the links to the tools I used, and 2, I'll have timestamps for each of these steps, so you can just click on that timestamp and jump right to the part of the video that you need for your specific install. Step 1 is going to be the mounting bracket and also the actual motor itself. That is going to be the portion with the wiring. Then I'm going to go ahead and install the housing, which is going to be that flush mount housing, and the adapter plate that's going to mount the light kit. That's step 2. Step 3, we're going to build out the blades and mount the blades. Those can take a little time, especially with the rubber grommets. So this is the 4th fan I'm installing at this property. So I found a few tricks and hopefully I can speed it up for you. And then the 4th and final step is getting that light kit in place, the shades in place, the bulbs, testing everything out. One thing to note is I will be testing at step 2. So I'm going to plug in the light kit and just test that my wiring and the circuits are all correct and both light switches work in my scenario. So I don't mount all my fan blades, mount everything up, get everything done, flip the switch and it doesn't work and then I gotta disassemble again. So I will have a test at step 2. So starting with step 1. So we'll pass the wires through the center hole in the mounting bracket, and then I'm reusing those threaded studs, but the kit does come with wood screws and also machine screws. But it's very important that the mounting bracket is secure. So your electrical box or whatever you're securing to needs to have a really strong hold. So once the bracket is secure, now we can go and grab the motor and hang the motor from the cradle. Now I'll prep the wires by twisting the braided strands and get them ready to wire up. So I'm just matching white from the motor to white in the electrical box, and then blue from the motor to red in the electrical box, black to black, and then green to my bare copper. It is always good also, once you have the wire nuts secured, to do a pull test to make sure both wires are actually seated in the wire nut and you don't have a bad connection that can cause issues later on. Then you'll just thread in the small machine screw in the side that will help retain the motor in the cradle. So for step 2, you'll need the pack of screws with 3 lines and then also the one with a circle. Taking the housing and the screws from the pack with a circle on it, you'll hand thread all 4 screws into the mounting bracket. Then with the Phillips head screwdriver, you'll go ahead and sink those just snug. You don't have to over tighten them. Now for the light kit adapter plate, you'll put 2 screws in which will hold the adapter plate in place and then thread the 3rd one. Once the 3rd is in, you can tighten them all up. And remember, step 2 has a test. So I'm going to turn the power back on, and then with the switches on at the wall, I'm testing the motor, which looks good, and also test the light out. Everything checks out, and we're ready to go on to step 3. So blades are pretty easy, but can take a little while. You're going to need the packets that are the triangle and square, and that'll be your grommets and your screws mounting the brackets to the blades. And then this double triangle will be the screws that mount the overall assembly, the blade assemblies, to the motor. So 5 of these you're going to have to create. This can take a little time, but the first things you need to know is which color do you want? Do you want light brown or do you want the dark brown? I want light brown. So that means the bracket is going to be on that side because it's going to get mounted like this, and you want the light brown facing down. First thing up is to put the grommets in place. This can take a little while, but what I have found to work fairly well is I put one side in the hole, then I take a flathead screwdriver and I just press the grommet down in 2 or 3 places, passing that through the hole, and then I just press it and it'll come through on the other side. Doing the same thing, press, press, pushing it down, and then that pops through. And then you just repeat that process, getting all the grommets in place. And now the side that I want to be facing down, I will have the bracket with the 3 mounting screws lined up, and then I just take 3 screws and then put them in place, and then tighten them down, and then that will be one complete fan blade. So I'm going to knock through these real quick and then show you how to mount them. As you saw at the end of step 2, I actually installed this adapter plate a little early, so I need to remove that so I'll have clearance to mount these blades. It's easiest to kind of balance the load. If you do load it up on one side like this, it will turn the motor to one side and makes it a little bit tougher to line up your screws. So just make sure everything's tight. Then I'll put that adapter plate back on with the 3 screws. All right, reaching the home stretch here, I'll put 2 screws, thread them in slightly into the adapter plate here. And that's so I can line up the lighting kit. So you'll slide these 2 slots in, twist it slightly, and that'll hold it in place while you line the 3rd screw. And then you'll sink this one all the way in, and then tighten the other 2. Now just the finishing touches, we'll put the shades in place. There is a small rubber band that fits in a groove, so you want to make sure that that is aligned, because that's what these threaded screws actually sit on, is that rubber band. I think that helps with like vibration and just makes for a better fit. Install your light bulbs, and then just install the pull chains. The light is the center one, and the fan is the outer pull chain. So I got the power back on, and as you can see, it's up and running. There's no vibration, it's super stable, there's very little noise, and it casts a really good light in this room with the 3 different light bulbs. Overall, this Hunter Classic Series fan I highly recommend, and hopefully you guys were able to follow along and install your own without any issues. The only design part of this that I don't like, and that's because of my past experience, is I can't access the mounting screws for the fan blades. So I just know from my rentals over time that the blades loosen up and droop. So I like to go through and tighten those up between tenants or just every once in a while. This one, you actually have to take off that light kit and the adapter plate that I installed too early to get access to those. So that's a little bit of a pain in the butt. It's not a showstopper, and maybe these blades will stay tighter than my experience in the past. Don't forget, you'll find a link to this fan and all the tools used down in the description. And if you have any questions, if you're hitting any roadblocks or speed bumps, jump down in the comments, let me know. I'll jump in and help as much as I can. And before you take off, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, as we have weekly videos coming out like this to help you with your repairs and improvements around the house. And we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.